This man is paralyzed. So they clapped his wife. Alright, picture this. We're in Kabul, and this place has been crumbled like that last pack of Oreos your roommate said they wouldn't eat. It's post-1990 Soviet pullout, and our macho mujahideen bands are squabbling like a reality TV reunion special over the city's remains. Enter our main character, a fallen warrior, except he didn't get his brain scrambled fighting for his homeland. No sir. He took a back-of-the-head bullet over a hissy fit with a comrade, who must have given your mama jokes a whole new deadly meaning. His wife, she's at his side, reciting Allah's 99 names, like she's cramming for a celestial final exam. Their local spiritual advisor guaranteed a 15-day recovery period. We're 3 weeks in and all she got was this lousy coma. She tries everything, even asking him to hold his breath. If that were a cure, I'd have healed every flu I ever had at age 7. Yet our hero remains as responsive as a teenager asked to take out the trash. The couple's 2 daughters chip in, providing distraction from the dire circumstances by posing life's most pressing question. What's for dinner, Mom? The pantry's as barren as the Mojave Desert. So she checks in with the neighbor, the local water cooler gossip, minus the water and the cooler. Braving the sounds of not-so-distant warfare, our brave mama heads out to the local pharmacy, only to be met with a refusal stiffer than my spine at a chiropractor's office. She's short on cash, but not out of options. Back home, she serves up a Michelin star-worthy concoction of salt water for her husband, asking permission to head out. She quickly remembers the whole comatose situation, so she dons her hijab and heads over to her aunt's. But it turns out she's pulled a Houdini. Feeling as lost as a tourist in Times Square, she spills all the beans to her unconscious husband. Her extended family had apparently turned a blind eye and went radio silent. Looks like her pleas to the Almighty are her only hope now. Meanwhile, her little ones are spooked in the dark, blaming themselves for their father's condition. But Mom's there, lighting the way with a trusty kerosene lamp and soothing their fears, whispering everything will be alright. A ray of hope in the midst of chaos. She's clearly got more courage in her pinky than all of her runaway relatives combined. Let's dive back into her story. Our heroine is in her husband's bedroom, giving him the 5-star nursing treatment. All that's missing is a mint on the pillow. Next day, the local mullah swings by, hoping to shower some spiritual blessings. Our lady, however, throws a period blockade, claiming impurity. You know the age-old, no-entry Shark Week card. He instructs her to keep up the prayers and bounces, promising to return later. Our valiant wife plays part-time surgeon, examining hubby's stubborn neck wound. Despite her best efforts, it's healing about as quickly as a frozen Windows update. Suddenly, a citywide call blares out. It's time to arm up and defend home turf. If that wasn't a big enough oh snap moment, the first explosion pops off. Like a mother hen, she scoops up her 2 chicks and makes a beeline to the basement. The neighbors join too, but alas, Wheelchair Joe is left behind. Inside, they tune into Radio Apocalypse, anxiously awaiting the all-clear signal. When the noise of destruction fades, our heroine plays run and check on her husband. Meanwhile, the neighbors play an impromptu game of who can carry Wheelchair Joe into the basement, as they anticipate round 2 of fireworks. Peering out, our lady spots incoming enemy tanks, like ominous metal bugs. She realizes it's time for another round of basement hide-and-seek. A few hours and some disaster cleanup later, she's back with her girls, huddled in the basement. Back on top, enemy fighters make a pit stop at the house, pocketing the comatose man's bling. Who knew battlefield etiquette was on par with a frat party? Luckily, one recognizes our fallen hero from his glory days and spares his life. News of the impromptu yard sale reaches our heroine, who stumbles upon the stripped room. The next day, Natasha, her neighbor, emerges reporting a ghostly silent family. The chilling truth? The neighbors have been wiped out. As the reality hits, Natasha's brain conjures a comforting illusion of her family still being alive. Realizing the increasing danger, our heroine makes the tough decision to leave her husband and whisk her daughters away. She returns to her aunt seeking Quest, only to face the same auntie's MIA news from the old lady, but this time she's gifted an address. There she meets her aunt, who has remained in town. After leaving the daughters with her, the woman returns to take care of her husband. In the process, the woman continues to tell her husband about all the things he did not have the courage to tell her before. The woman is disappointed in their marriage. She had married him when she was only 17 years old. Her husband did not come home on their wedding night because he was on the battlefield. She was forced to conduct the marriage with the image of him beside her. Unfortunately, her existence in her husband's home was equally unsatisfactory. Her mother-in-law commanded her life because she had married the man while he was still at war. Moreover, the woman did not get along with her mother-in-law. Her beauty made her fear that she would cheat on her husband, so she was always very strict with her to maintain her V card. The mother-in-law even slept under the same blanket as her, and this made her uncomfortable. In addition, the woman was also terrified of her husband's 3 brothers. They were always peeking outside her door. They also enjoyed teasing and insulting her. However, the woman could only pretend that nothing was happening, because even if she told her mother-in-law, she would still defend her children. At this point, the woman had no choice but to wait for her husband to return from war. However, she considers herself lucky. Her father, in fact, was a gambler who never cared for his daughters. Basically, bird fights were practiced in their town. If the father won the games, it was fine, but if he lost, he would beat and clap his daughters. As a result, after losing all his money, the father went into debt and had to give his eldest daughter in marriage to a 52-year-old man. Seeing this, the protagonist feared that the same fate would befall her. So one day she brought home a cat to feed it the bird her father used to play with. In the evening, the woman returns to her aunt and reveals that she feels guilty when she tells all these things to her husband. But at the same time, it helps her to feel better. The aunt tells her about a certain patient stone. In Persian folklore, there is a magical black stone to which one can confide everything. The stone listens, absorbing all the words, the secrets, and the miseries, until finally it explodes. And on that day, one is instantly freed from all suffering and worries. The next morning, the woman returns to her husband to clean him up and continues to tell him all that is on her heart. When the man finally returned from war, she was terrified by his icy eyes. She recounts that the man was always quiet, with a glimmer of coldness in his eyes. There was no warmth in his gaze. This gave her the impression that he was not her husband, but rather an imposing officer. The woman recounts that during the wedding night, he was very cold and stern. Meanwhile, her mother-in-law was guarding them outside the door, as she was looking forward to having grandchildren. So our pretend-to-be joyful woman finds herself living in a twisted reality show, Who Wants to Be a Baby Mama, hosted by the mother-in-law, whose job is to keep an eagle's eye on her belly for any signs of impending grandmahood. 6 months of this intense scrutiny and nada, no bump. The stakes are high because in this game, an empty womb could get you booted out faster than you can say infertile. Suddenly, neighborly prayer sounds permeate the air, followed by the arrival of the mullah, basically the town's unofficial siren, warning of incoming enemy attacks. During a quick perimeter check, she zips back home to implement Operation Save the Hubby. A curtain, a pillow, and a quick game of hide and seek later, Hubby is stashed away safely. Now enters Soldier 1, with the world's most obvious question, "Are you alone?" To which her lady coolly replies, "Yup." Close on his heels, enters a stuttering soldier, assigned to stand guard. All he gets is a cigarette for his troubles. Dude's curiosity gets the better of him and he inquires about her presence. Our quick-thinking woman pulls the oldest trick in the book. She tells him she's a professional lady of the evening. This backfires slightly, as stuttering soldier turns all prudish, spews some choice insults, and makes his exit. Back at Auntie, she gets a pat on the back for her quick thinking, because apparently in this twisted world, men prefer their mistresses to have zero bedroom experience. Go figure. Later that night, she's back with hubby, updating him on the day's drama while gunfire serves as their bedtime lullaby. Morning rolls around and guess who's back? Stuttering soldier. He throws money at her and jumps on her, only to be done quicker than you can say premature. He skulks away after awkwardly confessing it was his first rodeo. Well, that's a walk down memory lane for our woman, because guess who else was unclapped on their first night? Yup, hubby dearest. She collects herself and uses the money to stock up on necessities for her daughters and hubby. Then out doing laundry, who does she see? Yep, stuttering soldier. Back for round 2. So she takes the money and lets him in. Turns out this woman might just be the savviest survivor in this whole mess. So our leading lady flashes a grin at her husband and spills the tea, but how she's been moonlighting as a, hands-on instructor for the stuttering soldier. The guy's got potential but needs more practice, she figures. Then bam. She remembers hubby might not want to hear about her after-school activities, and quickly grabs a Quran for a quick sin-cleansing session. The next day, she finds the gate mysteriously repaired. Soon, stuttering soldier returns, insisting on some more quality time. She's not exactly thrilled, but hey, a girl's gotta do what a girl's gotta do. She ushers him into the dim room and starts undressing him, only to find his skin is basically a cigarette butt bin, courtesy of his commander. Turns out the stuttering soldier is an orphan, picked up and raised by some soldier with some serious anger management issues. Talk about job perks, right? Later, she finds a red bag with a necklace and fruit outside her house. Seems like stuttering soldier is trying to upgrade from paying customer to sugar daddy, but our lady assures hubby she's not about to change her relationship status on Facebook. Instead, she starts daydreaming about hubby waking up and then playing house all over again. As part of her dreamy mood, she goes for a bit of a wander under the blanket and introduces hubby to the 5-knuckle shuffle. Wink wink. Suddenly, she's feeling a bit possessed, and not in a fun, The Exorcist kind of way, but then she figures she's just being her usual charming self. Next day, she gets dolled up and is ready to drop a bombshell. The kids aren't his. Plot twist. After checkup, it turns out hubby was shooting blanks. Of course, telling the mother-in-law was not an option, so they came up with a plan. She would get pregnant with a mystery man, mother-in-law would consider it a miracle, and everyone would live happily ever after. Well, except for the husband's baby gravy, of course. But then talk about a wake-up call. Hubby's eyes fly open, and he grabs her by the throat. She's too stunned to react, but just as he's about to go full Darth Vader, she remembers her trusty knife and stabs him. Next thing you know, she's holding a bloody knife, crying and smiling like some deranged joker. As for the stuttering soldier, he's just awkwardly watching from the window. Looks like the patient stone just went kaboom. Moral of the story? I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. By the way, I started a new channel about AI news. If that topic interests you at all, check out the description and probably a pinned comment or something.